Welcome to Becoming Full of Yourself, the show where fulfillment is not a finish line, it's a way of being. I'm Ebonie Allard, master coach, energy specialist, soul contract guide, here to help you remember who you were before the world told you who to be. In each episode, we explore what it means to lead from the inside out, embody your truth, and become so full of yourself that you overflow. Let's get into it. Hope I am really excited about this episode. And we were saying before I press record that although we haven't had much time to hang out, and if you're listening or watching, this is, you're getting a first time conversation, and people never believe me because I'm often so personable straight away. And that is going to be even more so the case because of some of the things in your design, like Gate 59. But before we jump in, for those who have not met you yet, would you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, thank you, Ebonie. And I mean, I'd say that's the gift of a really good podcast. You're being personable super quick. So I love that about you. So I am Hope Pedraza. I'm a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner. And my work is kind of at the intersection of science and energetics. So as a functional practitioner, I do use functional labs, but I also use human design, subconscious reprogramming. I use things like clinical hypnotherapy and energetics and energy resonance scans to help women to get to the root cause of common chronic symptoms and drains on their energy so that they can get their energy and their magnetism back. I work mostly with high-performing women, a lot of entrepreneurs, career-driven women, goal-oriented women who they want their spark and their power back, and they want to feel good in their body and trust their bodies again. And so we're putting science and the energetics together so they can heal on a holistic level.
I love this. It's one of my favorite areas, and I think it's so important because the collective messaging for a long time, like far too long, has been around taking the power away from women and controlling their bodies.
Yep.
And I would like to think, and I think most people would probably describe me as quite a strong personality, quite a strong woman. And yet I had disordered eating and had to control the way that I was with food for a huge amount of my life. I would say probably from 11 until 5 years ago. So probably like to 40, like having this kind of unhealthy relationship with both food and control. And in my experience, I am not alone. There are a lot of incredibly intelligent, wise, powerful, creative women who feel either disconnected from their body or feel like they need to control it, right? Like this kind of separation piece. And I feel like we could have a really, really fun, playful, insightful conversation and hopefully help some people feel differently about the skin that they're in.
Yes, I love it.
You said in that intro, get their relationship back or get their vitality back. Do you think that most of the people that you work with had it in the first place and lost it at some point? Or do you see that they just didn't have that connection to begin with?
That's a good question. I think it's a little bit of a mixed bag, but I think to your point, what you said a second ago, I think that societally, women have been stripped of their power and women have been taught to question their bodies. And I would say 99% of the women that I work with have experienced some level of medical gaslighting where they've gone in for something and been brushed off or told, you're just getting older, it's hormones, it's perimenopause, and just brushed off with no deeper look or deeper dive or ask more questions and none of that. So I think that for a lot of women, maybe they experienced that spark at one time, but it's either been gone so long they can't remember the last time they had it, or it's like, oh, maybe I never had it in the first place. But I think we all have that spark at some time. And then, conditioning, the world, society, all the things, right? It just kind of starts to dim it a little bit at a little bit and a little bit more, a little bit more. But I think that the women who are looking and taking an approach like I offer, they know that it's in there. And I think that's the difference, is because there's a difference between someone who's just like, oh, the spark's gone, like this is me, this is, I'll just live with it, whatever. And the women who know there's something bigger and better within me that wants to come out, and I just need to figure out what's kind of keeping it pushed down. And so they know that that spark is there, and that there's an optimal living available to them, that they want to find access to that.
I also, in my world, I work with men as well, and I feel like we're absolutely allowed to have conversations that divide and that are solely centered on women or solely centered on men, and women's bodies have been controlled and subdued and are more complex. And for so many years, the science was like, this is too complicated, let's just ignore it, right? Yep. And so in some ways, that's why we're having this conversation. Do you work with men as well, or solely with women?
I do. Yeah, it is predominantly women. And the men I work with are usually like the husbands or the brothers, or I've had some brother-in-laws of the clients I work with. That men don't typically seek me out, but it's the women in their life who are like, hey, you need to do some work. So yes, every now and then I do. And same thing with kids. I work with kids too sometimes. Yeah. But it's usually like, clients or friends who are like, oh, I want to help my kids. Yeah.
And I think this is really cool, because I do think it's changing. I think that so many people are talking about awakening, and they're talking about spirituality and ascension. And I spend a lot of my time being like, oh, we're not supposed to transcend the body. You're missing the point. And I think that more and more people are waking up to the fact that the point of our incarnation experience, the point of being human, is to have a physical and emotional experience and then express that for the greatest and highest good of all. Yes. And that we have an individual, different experience than each other. And it's only when we start to talk about it that we can be like, you experience the world like this, because we have no idea unless we're sharing.
Yeah, exactly. Yep, so true.
And so what led you kind of into marrying energetics and the kind of physical part? Like, have you always had a great relationship with your body?
Yeah, no, no, not at all. Similar to your experience, Ebonie. Yeah, my experience, I also had a pretty long period of time with disordered eating behavior, and just really hating my body and hating myself, and just not feeling, I mean, honestly, thinking about it now, I think a lot of it was what I was mentioning before, like that spark just kind of gets covered up. And I think I felt a lot of frustration with my body. And I feel like I've always been someone who's been in tune with like the spiritual side of things and with that soul level part of me. But there was this separation, this detachment that happened. And so I think a lot of the frustration I felt with myself is that detachment. It was like knowing that I had separated myself from that part of me. Because as I went into my healing journey, this spiritual awakening period of my life, it was this feeling I had of recognizing I had always, again, it had always been there. I had just separated myself from it, right? So no, it was a pretty long period of time where it was just, I treated my body terribly, and I ran it into the ground for a while, especially even, starting my business. So it wasn't, yeah, it wasn't great for a long time. And I think that's really what helped me bring all these pieces together, because I also, to no coincidence, I had a lot of gut issues growing up as a kid, and I was in and out of different doctors and had colonoscopies and endoscopes and all the things they poke and prod and stick things up and in you and all that stuff. And of course, it was related to, I was type A perfectionist and all the things. And all of this was related to, my relationship with food, my body, and all that. And so I knew the physical side of things. Like that wasn't hard to figure out, because I had recognized how to change my diet so that this didn't happen or whatever. But it never really fixed all of it, right? Like it was better, but it never really fixed all of it. And so it wasn't until, I mean, honestly, I think the catalyst, and it's funny because I was doing this breathwork session with this group that I'm in, and it's kind of came up a couple days ago. The catalyst, really, the change for me happened in my early 20s when I got a divorce. And that for me was like this huge, just like opening up like the lid on the volcano, like, and everything just kind of came out. And I think that was the catalyst for me, and kind of sending me on my own journey of awakening and figuring out who I was and my identity and all that. So that was really, I think, the catalyst. And that was kind of what set me on my journey to start healing the other parts. Like, okay, I know about all the physical things now, but there's all these energetic and emotional things that I'm recognizing are connected. And so it was through my own journey, just like I know a lot of people listening, if you have a business, you know it's kind of how it goes, right? Through my own journey that I kind of put all these pieces together within my own self, my body, and my energy field, and then wanted to be able to do that for women too, because there's certain limitations when you're only looking at the physical body, right? I think everybody listening, if you're listening to the podcast and you're listening to you, Ebonie, then people know that there's this emotional, energetic root cause to the physical things happening on the body. And so I think that there are a lot of limitations to just looking at the physical body. And so
Yeah,
wanted
and
to
I,
be able
I
to put
think
these
it's
together.
also this journey of coming to be our own authority and not
Exactly.
outsourcing. Like, when I'm looking for a practitioner to work with, I'm not doing it from a please fix me, you have all the
Yes.
answers play.
Yes. Yes.
And that's not to say I never did. I absolutely made those investments. And they taught
We all
me
have.
they taught me not to make investments like that. Some were more expensive than others. And what I'm looking for now is someone who has spent their time and their energy and their focus in a particular area, who is more of an expert in the area than I am. And so I arrive as an expert in me, and they are an expert in their area of expertise. And then what we have is a conversation, right? Where I'm like, this is what is going on for me. Where does that sit in what you know, right? And then it's a backwards and forwards. And that's kind of what I do in my practice with all of these modalities, right? Like when I can look at someone's human design, when I can look at their astrology chart, when I can look at the transits, when we're looking at these kind of blueprints or maps, it's never to tell someone who they are. It's to enable me to see what's going on in your whole self, right? Like on every plane, physically, intellectually, emotionally, and spiritually, we can look at it and then have a conversation, and you can be the authority on you. And if you don't know how to do that yet, then knowing what your authority is, because it's written there in black and white for us to see, and we can go, and then we can teach you how to use it and to re-engage with it. It makes it all much more empowering for the individual.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's really the goal with anybody I work with. I tell my clients all the time, if you get zero results, which is really impossible, but if you get zero results working together with me, I at least want you to have a deep understanding of how your body works. It's so like when I'm going over labs with my clients, I'm going into so much detail and explaining everything. I want you to know exactly why you're feeling the way you're feeling. When we're diving into their human design and looking at their energy field, and like I do aura scans, like exactly, I want you to understand yourself at the most intricate level. For that reason, what you're saying, it's how different of an experience we have through life when we can make empowered decisions for ourselves and not have to wonder or worry or I don't really know because I don't know how much. I mean, we weren't given a manual for using our bodies. And I mean, honestly, the majority of women that I've worked with, they were never even taught about their periods, right? Like I don't even really know how it works.
It
Like
makes me so sad.
I know
It makes
it
me
is.
so
And
sad.
it's so sad and it's so disappointing that the level of education we were given for our bodies. And like you said a second ago,
Yeah.
women's bodies are so many more intricate details. It's just different than a man's, right? And there's a lot to learn and figure out. And so anyway, I totally agree with you. I think that that sense of empowerment, because then it also is this level of trust. And I think that's what a lot of, especially the women I've worked with, they've lost trust in their bodies. And a lot of it they've been taught because they've questioned everything they're feeling. Like, am I crazy? Am I imagining things? I don't know. Like the doctor said that, So having that trust and that empowerment is, I mean, it's really priceless.
Yeah. And one of the things that we have in common, and that we were talking about before I press record, is having a reflector mind and in your case, a Manigen body or vehicle, and in mine, a manifestor vehicle. And for me, like understanding that changed so much for me, because it stopped me from feeling like, why am I not there yet? Why is everyone else like, I'm, this is going to sound awful. I'm so much smarter than everybody. Why are they
Yeah.
why are they more successful than me, right?
Yes.
And then to
Yes.
kind of get that
Yes.
like, oh, I've got a reflective mind. It's just going to take me some time. I've been sampling all of these different things and being like, no, not that. No, not that. No, not that, right? And I'm
Yes.
kind of at this point now where it's starting to flip and I'm starting to go, okay, I know I've sampled all of these different ways and I can pull the right thing in the right situation. And I now understand how my mind works. I understand how my body works. I know what my kind of purpose, my karma, my dharma is. And I trust that it is okay for me to be full of myself. And I trust my authority. And I choose to help others find that power within themselves. And I was really curious how your experience of kind of having an unconscious body, right, or like having this very separate and different relationship with your body and mind, because you said yes, that, you know, when we talked about it, you were like, this really lands for me too. What was your experience of learning that or figuring it out?
Yeah. I mean, everything you said, I'm like, yep, I've thought that before. I've thought that before. I mean, that's it's my exact experience. And especially I have a brick and mortar business as well. And especially I've been doing that one for longer than my online business. I've had that one for about 15 years. And I felt like that's been like the most massive initiation in life, like that my brick and mortar business. It's
Yeah.
just a whole different animal than an online business, right? But I felt that too, where it's like, why is it taking me? And like I've had the same thoughts where like I know I'm better than everybody else at doing this. Like I have no doubt that I can teach this better, you know. So I've had those same thoughts and like, why is it taking me so long? And why? And like you were saying before we hit record, like just having that feeling that kind of disconnection with your body and being frustrated with your body, like it makes so much sense. And I know when I first learned about the unconscious versus conscious, right, sides of your human design, I'm like, oh my gosh, this makes so much sense and why I'm so sensitive to the environments that I'm in and the people that I'm around and why that affects me so much. And my husband is the total opposite. He's a total extrovert and can be around people all day, every day. And I'm like, I need to be by myself. I need time alone. I need to like, you know, like it, God just explains so much.
But it's really interesting because your design, like my experience of 3/5s generally, is that they are busy with people, right? Like there's lots of peopling going
Yeah,
on,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
But then again, you've got this beautiful contrast of also being a mountain environment, a passive mountain environment. And for me, one of the biggest shifts I've made is understanding that I'm a passive mountain environment. And then I got it physically. I got it like my
Yeah.
home. I've always picked places that are like spacious, white, light, open. Like this is,
Yes.
I cannot think in clutter, right? Just can't.
Yes.
But redesigning my business so that my spaces were spacious,
Mm.
that people had to kind of climb a little bit to come meet me and then like go away, and consciously designing space, negative space in the business where they weren't with me, where they had time to digest. Like this changed everything for me.
That makes so much sense. Yeah, that resonates. That resonates very much. Because same, I think it was a few years ago where I was like, okay, I'm gonna make my workspace like reflective of, and so like my desk out where I work, it's like I have mountains. I have like this huge picture of like the mountains in Italy. Like I have, you know, I have all the things to create the space. But yeah, it was like trial by fire. The whole like getting like, because that part of you understanding your business and how to bring that part into your business, I think was kind of just, well, for me, it's like full three lead energy. Like, let me just try this and fail a million times before I figure out, like, oh, okay, there needs to be more spaciousness and how this, you know, so that totally resonates.
Well, that's the difference between a 3/5 and a 5/2.
Yeah.
Right there. Like
100%.
intuitively, in my teens, before the internet was invented, I was like, I'm going to be like in the ether, like drawing and talking to people, and they will not be in my space all the time. And it just didn't make any sense. And I think we are on the verge of another shift collectively where there is a lot of stuff that our kids or young people are going to be saying or sensing or knowing about the future and where they're headed work-wise that makes no sense to us because it hasn't
Yeah.
been invented yet, you know?
Yep. Mm-hmm. 100%.
And when we can empower not just us and our generation, but the kids and everyone coming up to understand their bodies, to know what their authority is, to be full of themselves and know that by being full of yourself, you're not taking away anything from anybody else,
Mm-hmm.
then it doesn't really matter what happens in the future because they will know how they learn, they'll know how they digest, they'll know when they need space. Like all of this stuff around boundaries and confidence
Yes.
is not given enough value and priority, I think.
100%. Yeah. I mean, they're not taught any of it. My kids are small and they're in school, and I have found, and they go to a private school, but I have found it interesting that there is more emphasis on emotions, which I think is really cool. One of my son's teachers sent out this letter at the beginning of the year basically saying, like, okay, we know that, people have home life and school life. And so if things are happening at home and maybe your kid just needs, extra care, attention, a hug, just, send me a message and let, so there's like this care for emotions. And then my daughter's in pre-K. And so she's learning how, okay, her teacher taught her how to do breath work and like calm herself down, calm them down. So I think there are pieces that they're learning, but to the detail and nuance and intricacies like we're talking about here, I do think like I wish there was a life school that kids got to go to learn this kind of stuff. And maybe it'll exist. Maybe like you said, maybe our kids, like the next generation will be the ones to start this to help people learn these parts about themselves. But it's so valuable and it's so important for I would do anything to have my kids not experience what I experienced as a kid and as a teen and as a woman in my 20s going through what I did with how I felt about my body and the way I treated myself and felt about myself. So I hope that that's on the horizon. Like, okay, here's the next, maybe that's a part of the 2027 shift, right? Maybe that'll be part of it.
I think so, and I also think like one of the things you said earlier, and at least my experience of this as well, is that there's a way into discovering our purpose that only really happens when in the absence of it, right? And so that's like true. How can you know what you stand for if you don't know what you stand against? How can you know what you're here to fight for if you don't know what you're fighting against? And I think that one of the things that I see a lot is just overall apathy and numbness, and a real desire for intimacy, and yet no understanding or awareness or no willingness or courage to like really express what's true.
Yeah, I feel that. I think, I read something the other day talking about this kind of this numbness and this collective loss of empathy that we have just as a collective. And I really do feel like really what we're talking about, this disconnection from self, I think that's the root cause. When we're disconnected from ourselves, how are we going to feel anything for anybody else? Yeah. And our society has done, I mean, the conventional medical system, just society in general has done such a good job of compartmentalizing, all the parts, the physical, the mental, the emotional, spiritual, like all of these are separate things when we all know it's not. We're all of those things. Yeah. And I think that is such a huge, I agree with you so much. There's so much. Yeah, I think apathy is, and the numbness, like I see things sometimes, I have to be careful, the reflector in me, be careful of things that I read and see, and things on the news, all that kind of stuff. It could just really affect me. And we become so desensitized to it, and to, like you were saying, like you have to know what you stand against to know what you're standing for. And I think that, I think a lot of, as a collective, we've just kind of given up the like, oh, well, it's somebody else's problem. Like it's not, it's not as important. And I really do feel like it all starts with that disconnection from ourselves.
I'm curious then, because so when I was learning human design and the gene keys, the gates really spoke to me. Archetypes have always been my thing. My son's in gate 56. I'm a wandering storyteller. And in order to learn, I created the Kismet codes, Oracle deck. And so I made all 64 cards and I wrote this book so that you can carry this tiny little thing around instead of the whole book by Richard Budd. And I pulled out your incarnation cross, right? And I love that. So your sun is in gate 55. Anyone who's looking or not watching, you've probably seen my deck. You can find it online or you can get it when you look at the show notes. And it says on it, when I play, I access the spirit of abundance. And it's this girl, like, with butterflies and light, and like she's just dancing in the joy of being a kid and being in her body, right? Like, and I really feel that with you. I really feel like you have learned or come back to, like, shining a light on that free spirit. that liberation that we're moving towards. And it's part of our collective journey also, like moving towards 55. And one of the things I find fascinating when I'm exploring kind of self-awareness and becoming full of ourselves is that first step from the sun, which most of us relate to because we've got a kind of understanding of it, down into our earth, which for you is in gate 59. And I love 59 because it's my culture, and so it's, I'm all about transparency, I'm all about intimacy, I'm all about noticing where we're not being honest with ourselves. And this is the card that I drew for gate 59. And it says, your truth plus my truth equals potent partnership. And I love that because I can see so clearly that that's what you've done for yourself. Like, you've come into your own body and like the truth of it and who you are, and like finding that, but then, taking that out in the world and like evolving by helping people to really be truthful with themselves. And then on the other side, you've got 34 and 20, which is this channel of power and of the pure manigen, which is got these two gates. So that's gate 20, which says, I trust that I'll know what I need when I need to know it. And then the 34 is pure potent power. And so it just says, I am pure potent power. And again, the relationship that people have with power. Often people are scared of power or think it's dangerous, or they're very used to the experience of power over rather than power to. And I guess it just brings me so much joy when I'm talking to someone about being full of themselves, and we look at your incarnation cross and we're like, yes, you're so full of yourself.
I love that.
One of the things that I wanted to kind of touch on is expression. Because as a manifesting generator, and particularly with that in the body, when we're not using our throat, when we're not expressing, we're going to get inflammation in the body. We're going to get anger. And so many people, including myself, are like, I'm just not an angry person. I don't get angry. But I get inflammation, or I get spots, or I get IBS, or I get, And so I'm curious about your relationship with expression and like actually speaking out your truth.
Yeah, that has been quite the journey. I grew up in a really conservative religious household, and conservative religion, at least here in America, I don't know if it's like that universally, I assume it is. It's you be the good girl, right? And you do the right thing, and you be nice, and you be good, and you follow the rules, and that's just how, right? That's just how I was taught. So that has been, and I think I mentioned my divorce in my 20s was kind of this catalyst, like the volcano, just like the lid coming off and everything. And I think that was a really big time for me to recognize I'd even had a voice. Like, I didn't even know I could have my own opinions about things. Like, it was like you're told what your opinions are when you're in conservative religion. Like, this is what you believe, period. The end. You don't question it. You don't ask questions. You just, this is it. So recognizing like, oh, I could make my own opinions about things, and I could have different feelings and beliefs about things, and oh, I can even use my voice to express these things. So that has been quite the journey for me. And I think that's kind of been with the evolution of my business as well, being able to use my voice to talk more about the spiritual or quote woo side of things that I really held back from talking about for so long. Like, I love the spiritual energy, whatever people think it's whatever. Like, I love that part of me, and I'm a Pisces too. So that's, it's like the mystical and the magical and the, fairies, and like, I love all of that. And so just feeling, and a lot of it came too with my own healing journey. And I was mentioning before, like feeling safe in your body, that was a big piece for me too. Once I felt safe in my body, I'm like, oh, I'm safe to use my voice now. Like, I can speak my truth, and I can speak up, and I can speak up for injustice and these kind of things. And it's definitely been a journey, but I know that for me, there was that healing in the body that had to happen first for me to feel trust in my body and also love my body again. Then I could feel safe using my voice.
And I love that. And I love how you use the language of it being a volcano, because of the 34 is literally a picture of a volcano and in your radiant sphere, which is your health, right? And so there was a point at which your body, your health, your vitality, and again, you talked about like getting your spark back, right? And so your health, the radiant sphere, is literally, it was like, there is no fire in this volcano.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah, it's stuff down.
And then I assume it like all came out.
Yeah. 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 I mean, it was little that's and when I think about and that's what came up for me in the breathwork session the other day when it came out, it was like literally seeing like everything just kind of, explodes.
Mm, mm. And how do you feel about being full of yourself now?
I love that and I love how you say that. I think when you're, especially with human design, like I love human design as a tool for this, and I have to help walk my clients through this as well. When we understand that when we're living our design, we're embodying our design, when we're understand how we operate. We understand all these pieces of ourselves. Like you're saying, this is you being full of yourself. Like this helps the collective. Like it's not just helping you, but it's helping the collective. Like you're playing your little piece of the cosmic puzzle. And in order to do that, you have to understand yourself. So that's really been the big lesson for me in taking my own journey through human design. And I like to help my clients in that because yeah, if I'm not fully embodying me, then it's affecting it. I mean, it's like the butterfly effect, whatever. It's like there's a ripple effect to that. And so for me, that's how I feel about what I'm here to do, my purpose, my dharma, like all of that. It's I have to fulfill that's my soul's purpose. That's my soul's calling. That's why I incarnated here on this earth and I have to do it. Like I don't have a choice. I have to put it out there. And
And
when
you
I
know what? You
don't,
totally have a choice, and we also have a responsibility.
right.
We could choose, like, inaction is an action in itself. Like, we can
Very true.
choose to not show up. We can choose
Yeah.
not to express. We can choose
Yeah.
to, like, bite our tongue and hold our voice. And then at a certain point, our body or the universe will find a way
Yes.
for you to trust yourself or trust its
Yeah.
plan, right?
Yeah.
Because
Right.
one of the other things I talk about quite a lot is this difference between ownership and control. Like we
Mm.
start out wanting to be in control of our lives, and at a certain point we realize it's way more powerful, way wiser to take ownership than control. And when we take ownership, we move into this place of responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
if you have something defined, if you have a channel defined, if you have a gate defined, if you have a center defined, you're a beacon of it in the world. And
Yeah.
so it's your responsibility to be a good beacon of it
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
everyone else is an amplifier. And so if you're
Right.
being
Yeah.
a poor version of that, then everyone else is amplifying that poor
Right.
version.
Right. That's it. Yeah. And I think responsibility is the perfect word for that. And that's what I feel in my soul. Like it's my responsibility. And I think that I know what it's like to avoid my soul's calling. Like I know what it's like to be like, no, no, I'm gonna go do this thing. Like I don't, there's so much resistance that comes up, physical resistance, like relational. There's so much resistance that comes up in life. Like I know the alternative. So if I know I have a responsibility to the purpose I've been called to do here, then that's the path I want to take.
Yeah, I've just had a really interesting epiphany around having a reflective mind. Most people that I speak to believe that they're living their life safely.
Mm.
They follow the rules, right? And so if you follow the rules, you're living a safe life, I'll be okay. And I've never believed that because I've got a reflective mind, right? And so the mind has just felt so uncomfortable, like so uncomfortable around the way that other people live. And they're like, no, I'm doing the safe thing. I'm like, that just doesn't feel safe to me.
Yeah, yes,
It
yes,
thinks safe, right? But it
yes,
doesn't feel
yes.
safe. And it's such an interesting thing. And I'm watching the world realize that safety is not outside of them, it's inside.
Mm.
And the work that you're doing in the world, I think, is so important because I truly believe that as the external world gets a little more chaotic, and people listening are like, not more, but it has to fall apart in order for it to transform into
The
something
phoenix
else.
rising from the ashes.
And the true safety is inside of you all the time.
Mm-hmm. 100%. Yeah.
So if people want to come and start their journey with you, find out more about like the marrying of this science and spirituality together, which I could geek out on forever. If they want to come and find out more, what's the best place for them to come and interact and engage with you?
Yeah. So on social media, I'm the Hope Pedraza. I'm most active on Instagram at the Hope Pedraza. My website is hopefulandwholesome.com. And then I have a podcast by the same name, Hopeful and Wholesome.
Amazing. I'm going to put all the links in the show notes so people can find it and you really, really easily. Is there anything else that we haven't discussed, or do you have any message as we, embark into this new year, the end of January? Everyone probably is still in this place of like, new year, new me, even if they don't think that they think that.
Yeah, right. That's very true. Like, no, I don't buy into that, but then they really are. I think two things are coming up for me. When you were talking just a second ago and the Phoenix rising, like my incarnation cross is the same as the one we're transitioning into in 2027. And so the Phoenix has come up a lot for me over the past couple of years. And I've really been tuning into that and learning from that. And I think what's coming up for me just as a collective is just the willingness and the openness and the surrender to letting what needs to burn to the ground, like whatever you need to let go of, whatever needs to be burned, let it burn.
Yeah.
And just surrender to the process, because the expansion comes on the other side of that, right? That we have to have it's just like I was talking to a client the other day, like you can't have spring without winter, like things have to die away before they can be reborn and grow, right? The growth requires that process. And so my message for those listening are just to allow it, like let go of the resistance and the fear and just know that there's this growth and expansion on the other side of whatever needs to be burned down and let go.
I think particularly for people with heavy water in their chart, right? Like fire or earth, fire can be scary. Even for people, like for me, for years, I was scared of my fire. My big three are all fire. I'm a Leo sun, Sag moon, Sag rising, right? So I have a lot of fire, and I felt like it was too much and that I overwhelmed people, right? And that I was dangerous, like all of that kind of stuff, and making peace with my fire and understanding that the place everyone wants to be at a party is in the kitchen, right? And like cooking, in alchemy, and like you can't do any of that without fire. Like fire is what people come together for. It's what transforms like raw ingredients into something amazing. And yeah, it's dangerous if you don't know what to do with it. Yeah, it's dangerous if you're like touching the flame. But if you let it do its thing, something pretty cool comes out on the other side.
Love that.
You said there were two things. Was there one other?
Yeah. The other thing is I always feel compelled to say this because I always feel like somebody listening needs to hear it. And it's so simple and probably so trite for people and not the sexy thing people want to talk about, but it's just listening to your body. Like that is like my biggest advice. It's not super technical, it's not super sciencey, but if you want to know the best advice for healing your body, it's just listening to your body. And as simple as we think it is, we're like, okay, yeah. I mean, if you really think about how many times a day do you take the opportunity to really tune in with your body and listen to what it's telling you and honor what it's telling you. So that's always my big piece for people. And I feel like you can't say it enough, is just to listen to your body and trust it and honor what it's telling you.
I love that, and I say it often too, and I probably don't say it often enough. For me, what always comes up is if you hadn't listened to or talked to a friend for a really long time, and then you start telling it what to do, would it listen? Or would it, or like you started saying, like, tell me what's going on for you, and it just, they wouldn't, right? They'd be like,
what?
You? Yeah. You haven't spoken to me in years. I'm not going to tell you my secrets. Right. So if you haven't spoken to your body for years, it's not going to tell you its secrets, right? Yeah. Like, give it time, give it reason to believe you. And oftentimes that looks like if your body says, I'm tired, rest, and you go, yeah, later. That's not building a relationship.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, it's breaking the trust.
Yeah, and so, so number one, like listen to your body. Number two, like do what it tells you, respect it.
Yes, honor it, respect it.
Show
Yes,
it, like show yourself you can trust you.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I am going to go and check out all your things because I can never get enough of this stuff. And I feel like no matter how far we go, you know, one of my big things, and again, like learning my design, like tapping into it, is really realizing there is no destination. This is it. This is the journey. And again, I spent so many years being like, when I figure my body out, then I'll.
Yes,
And
when
the
I
truth
get there.
is, the beauty of being a woman is, as soon as you figure your body out, it will change.
Yeah, it's very true. Guaranteed.
Yeah. So yeah, it's not a problem to be solved, but an inquiry to enjoy.
Yeah, I love that.
Oh,
Thank you, Ebonie. Thank you.
thank you. Thank you for tuning in to Becoming Full of Yourself. If you found a resonance here, subscribe, share it with someone who's ready to reclaim their fullness, and leave a review to help others find this work. For more resources, rituals, real talk on living a fully fulfilled life, head to ebonieallard.com. Until next time, be bold, be brave, be full of yourself.